They promised to let her daughter live. That was all Lena Carter needed to hear, the single fragile hope that kept her breathing. She had been trained to survive war, but no one trained her for this, for begging, for bargaining, for praying. They promised, and she believed them because to do otherwise would have broken her heart completely. But monsters do not keep promises. They killed her little girl anyway, and with that final betrayal, they turned a mother into a weapon. The only thing colder than the snow around her would be the vengeance she carried inside. Stay with me through every chapter of this story, because sometimes a mother's love can become the deadliest force on earth. Lena Carter had once believed she was done with war. After 12 years as a Marine sniper, she'd traded rifles for bedtime stories, night vision goggles for night lights, and camouflage for a tiny yellow house with a white picket fence. Her greatest mission now was getting her daughter Emily to school on time. Life felt simple, maybe even small, but it was theirs. And after everything Lena had witnessed overseas, the blood, the cries, the endless questions about why good men died, she cherished small things. Emily's laughter at the breakfast table, the silly songs they sang driving to soccer practice, the way she'd braid her mother's hair with colorful clips that never matched. Lena had seen horror that would have broken weaker people, but this little girl with her gap-toothed grin and sticky fingers was her reason to keep going. Emily was hope in a world Lena had thought beyond saving. Still, there were nights when fear clawed its way through the walls Lena had built around her heart. The news was getting worse: random kidnappings, organized crime rings targeting the children of military veterans, ransom deals gone bad. It all felt too close. She found herself double-checking the school security system, studying the routes Emily took on the bus, even drilling emergency words into Emily's head. Mom Emily had once sighed, rolling her eyes with that unstoppable tween drama, "Nobody's going to kidnap me." Lena had forced a laugh. "Humor me," she said. But in the dark of night, Lena wondered if she was the one living in denial. Still, Lena tried to hold on to the precious moments. A Tuesday night spaghetti dinner. Emily drawing silly unicorns on her math homework. The girl liked to call them battle unicorns, armored and fierce, a strange echo of the stories Lena sometimes told about her own past. One evening, as they washed dishes together, Emily asked in a small voice, "Mom, were you ever scared when you were a soldier?" Lena paused. She thought of bullets tearing past her head, of seeing men fall beside her, of praying she'd make it home. She rinsed soap from her hands and wiped them on a towel. "Yes," she admitted, "I was scared a lot, but I was trained to keep people safe." That helped. Emily nodded, soaking that in. Then she offered a crooked smile. "I'm glad you keep me safe." That night, after Emily was in bed, Lena stood in the hallway for a long time, just watching her daughter sleep. So small, so defenseless. How could the world be so ugly and still allow something so perfect to exist? A chill crawled across her shoulders as she looked out the window into the night. She didn't know why, but something in her gut told her that danger was closer than she dared to believe. The next morning, Lena gave Emily a hug before school, tighter than usual. Emily squirmed. Sorry." Lena smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Just stay sharp today, okay?" Emily gave a confused look, but shrugged. "Sure." The door closed behind her. Lena stood there alone, listening to the silence. She tried to push away the worry, telling herself she was just overprotective. But a voice deep inside her refused to be silenced. Something was coming. The day unraveled with cruel simplicity. Lena worked from home, a small freelance security consulting gig that let her stay close to Emily's school. She checked her phone every hour, almost by instinct, making sure there were no strange calls or messages. At exactly 3:07 p.m., Emily should have been stepping off the bus and running up the front walkway. Lena checked the clock, smiling at the thought of the girl's messy ponytail bouncing behind her. But the minutes dragged on. 3:10, 3:15, nothing. Her chest tightened. She stepped outside, scanning the quiet street. A school bus rumbled by empty. She dialed the school. Her voice was too loud, too sharp. Emily Carter, has she left already? The secretary fumbled for records. Yes, Ms. Carter, she was marked on the bus list. She should be there. Should be. Lena's pulse went nuclear. She ran the block, searching eyes darting over every parked car, every unfamiliar face. By 3:30, she was calling 911, voice cracked, brain in freefall. Her training screamed at her to look for patterns, analyze threats, form a plan. But the mother inside her was panicking, tearing down every defense. Within the hour, 2 uniformed officers were at her door, asking blandly predictable questions about custody issues or family fights. Lena nearly ripped their clipboards from their hands. No one took her except them, she hissed. Do you understand me? The officers blinked, unsure, writing things down. Lena barely slept that night. She scoured security cameras, calling everyone she knew. Nothing. Emily had simply vanished. At 4 a.m., the phone rang. She snatched it up so fast she nearly dropped it. Hello. A voice, calm, practiced, inhuman. Miss Carter. Lena's heart punched against her ribs. Where is my daughter? The voice chuckled and it made her skin crawl. Safe for now. Lena's knees nearly buckled. What do you want? A fair trade, the voice continued. $1 million, cash, no police. You have 5 days. Lena's throat went dry. $1 million, I don't have that kind of money. Then find it. She heard Emily in the background, muffled sobbing. Mom, please. Lena clutched the phone so hard it might break. Don't you dare touch her. The call ended. Lena screamed. The sound tore through her ribs, raw and helpless. Then silence came crashing in. No police, $1 million, 5 days. Her military mind tried to refocus, fighting through the hurricane of horror. Prioritize, gather intel, negotiate. But the mother in her felt as if her soul was being ripped apart. She went to Emily's room, sat on the edge of her daughter's bed, and buried her face in the unicorn sheets that still smelled faintly of bubblegum shampoo. I will get you back, no matter what it takes. For the next 3 days, Lena's life became a blur of desperation. She called everyone she had ever worked with, every friend, every Marine buddy who might still owe her a favor. She sold her truck, pawned her jewelry, emptied every bank account. The numbers still felt impossible, but she pushed forward like a machine. At night, she barely slept, her mind replaying Emily's voice on that horrible phone call. By dawn, she was back on the phone with a half-dozen veterans organizations trying to borrow what she could. The final sum came together dollar by agonizing dollar. It felt like cutting chunks of her own flesh. She had the money. Now she had to trade it for her daughter's life. The ransom call came again. You have it? Yes, Lena rasped, her voice no longer that of a warrior, but of a terrified mother. Good, the voice replied. Tomorrow. Abandoned warehouse on Market and 9th. 8 p.m. No police. Lena barely managed to breathe out. Will Emily be there? The voice chuckled. If you follow instructions. The next day felt like walking through a dream. She checked the money again and again, counted it until the numbers blurred. She cleaned her pistol and hid it inside her jacket, knowing it was useless against a dozen armed men, but unable to walk in unarmed. She drove to the warehouse early, parked blocks away, scouted the roof lines, watched for movement. The area was dark, almost deserted, half swallowed by graffiti and broken windows. 8 p.m. arrived like a blade to the throat. Lena carried the duffel bag, stepping into the darkness, heart pounding so hard she thought it would crack her ribs. Emily, she called. A shadow stepped forward. Black coat, gloved hands. A voice from a distorted phone speaker. Leave the money. Walk away. Her mouth went dry. Where is my daughter? The shadow shifted as if bored. Leave the money. Walk away. I want to see her, she shouted, her voice breaking. Silence. Then from a dark corner, a small figure was shoved forward, a child's silhouette, a cloth sack over her head. Lena nearly dropped the bag, the relief so powerful it made her dizzy. "Emily," she whispered. But then the cloth fell away, and Lena saw glass eyes. A mannequin's head. It was a trick. She lunged forward, but a burst of gunfire cracked through the warehouse, striking the concrete at her feet. She froze. The voice on the speaker laughed, cold and merciless. "Thanks for the cash, Marine." Lena screamed, but the shadow was gone. The speaker cut to static. They had taken her money, and Emily was still gone. Worse, maybe she was gone forever. Lena sank to her knees on the filthy concrete. She didn't even feel the tears until they were soaking through her gloves. Then her phone buzzed. One final text. "Your daughter was an inconvenience. She is gone." A photo attached Emily, lifeless, a dirty rag tied around her mouth. Lena's entire body went numb. The scream she made didn't sound human. It echoed off the metal walls loud enough to wake the dead. But no one came. No one came. And in that silence, Lena Carter died. What rose in her place was something else. Lena did not remember how she got home that night. Her hands were raw from clutching the steering wheel, her mind an endless whirlpool of Emily's terrified eyes frozen forever in that final photograph. She stumbled inside the house, hollow, her body operating on reflex. Emily's drawings were still on the fridge. Unicorns and superheroes with bright rainbows scrawled above them. Lena tore them down with shaking hands, crumpling them against her chest as sobs finally broke free. She had failed. No Marine training, no weapon, no strategy had saved her little girl. For 2 days, Lena barely moved. She drank water from the tap and stared at the walls numb, while the nightmares replayed every time she closed her eyes. In her dreams, Emily called for her. In her dreams, she was too slow to save her. But on the third morning, Lena woke up to sunlight stabbing through her blinds, and something in her snapped. She could not die here. If she was alive, then she had a mission, a mother's mission. She rose, joints stiff, and found Emily's photograph in the bedroom drawer. She smoothed the wrinkled edges, brushing her thumb over the bright, innocent smile. Then she taped it to the buttstock of her old M40 sniper rifle, stored in a case beneath her bed for emergencies. "This is for you," she whispered. The next step was intelligence. She needed names, faces, everything. Lena stripped away the mother she had been and let the Marine inside her take over. She changed her clothes, pulling on worn tactical pants, a black t-shirt and combat boots that had been waiting like a loyal dog in the back of her closet. She made calls to old contacts, burned phone numbers, encrypted accounts. Friends who once owed her favors still respected her enough to answer. They didn't ask why, they knew from the tremor in her voice. A network of names emerged. A terrorist-funded kidnapping ring working for political leverage with cells scattered through the country. The scum who had stolen Emily were just one piece of a rotting puzzle. Lena did not want the puzzle. She wanted revenge. She loaded her rifle. She ran through dry fire drills until her shoulder burned and her hand steadied. She practiced until the crosshairs felt like an extension of her own eyes. And then late at night, she opened a file her contacts had sent: photographs, aliases, last known locations. One face leapt out at her. The man in the warehouse, the voice from the phone. Lena memorized every line of his face. He was first. She clicked off the desk lamp, her heart beating with a calm, focused rage. No more tears. No more hope. Only purpose. Lena watched the target for 3 straight days. He went by the name Malik, a mid-level operative in a kidnapping syndicate that pretended to be a liberation group, but was really just a gang of predators. Malik moved around the city like he owned it, fearless, certain no one would ever dare to come for him. He was wrong. On the 4th night, Lena tracked him to a safe house on the industrial edge of town. From a half-collapsed water tower nearby, she studied his routine through her scope, the way he stepped outside to smoke the blind spots in the surrounding security, the moments when he was alone. She slept on a concrete platform under a ragged blanket, breathing frost, eating cold protein bars, her finger constantly checking the trigger's travel. She did not allow herself to think of Emily. Emily was gone, and only the mission remained. On the fifth night, the moment came. Malik emerged alone, no bodyguards in sight, lit up by the sickly yellow glow of a broken street lamp. Lena steadied her breath. Exhale, squeeze. The shot was surgical. One whole center mass dropped him where he stood. His cigarette flared and fell onto his jacket, the only light in the cold night. Lena climbed down and approached. No hesitation. She needed confirmation. He was still barely alive, gurgling eyes wide in confusion. Who? Lena stared down at him, steady as stone. Emily's mother, she whispered. And then he was gone. She searched his pockets for a phone, any clue to the next link in the chain. And there it was, messages to another lieutenant, a man called Fareed, arranging payments and shipments of other children. Lena felt the rage burn hotter than ever. There were more. More families, more stolen kids, more broken mothers, just like her. She would end them all. Under the cover of night, she moved fast, disappearing before sirens approached. She scrubbed her presence clean, as she had been trained to do, leaving nothing but a corpse and a cause of death no one would dare trace. She slept that night in a burned-out motel room rifle next to her Emily's picture, still taped to the stock. When she closed her eyes, she dreamed not of her daughter's death, but of the next hunt. The path ahead was soaked in red. Lena knew that. She accepted it. Fareed was next, the man behind arranging entire truckloads of kidnapped children, trafficking them across borders with fake IDs and forged papers. Lena found him hiding in a luxury condo uptown, behind layers of digital security and paid-off guards. But his arrogance betrayed him. He liked to visit a certain rooftop bar on Thursday nights and brag about his money to impressionable women. Lena scouted him for a week, studying every pattern. She saw the way he tipped the bartender, the way he laughed too loudly, how he left through a back elevator alone at the end of the night. Perfect. On Thursday, Lena waited on a nearby rooftop with her rifle. The wind knifed across the steel and concrete, but she barely felt it. Fareed stumbled out alone, adjusting his designer jacket, checking his watch, oblivious to the death waiting for him. Lena centered the reticle on his chest. Breathe. Exhale. The shot hit hard, knocking him backward onto the gravel, a crimson spray painting the air. Lena was already on the move before he hit the ground. She needed his phone, his codes, his data. Reaching his body, she ripped the phone from his hand, scanning contacts, folders, bank records. Each name, each wire transfer opened another door, more monsters to destroy. By dawn, she had a list, 5 more names, each connected to the same black market network. She remembered Emily's voice, tiny and desperate, begging over that first phone call. It threatened to rip her apart again, but she refused to let the pain paralyze her. Pain was fuel now. In the coming weeks, she hunted those names one by one. A trafficker hiding in a beachside mansion, a banker laundering ransom cash, a pilot ferrying stolen children across borders. Each fell under her bullet, none of them prepared for a ghost in the snow. Some tried to fight, some begged. Lena showed them all the same mercy they'd shown Emily. None. And each time she pulled the trigger, she saw her daughter's bright blue eyes in her mind, reminding her why this had to be done. One night, after crossing another name off her list, Lena sat alone on a park bench, gun wrapped in a plastic bag at her feet. She stared up at the stars, lost, broken, but unbending. That was when an encrypted message pinged on a throwaway phone she'd kept active. "You're making noise. Stop, or we will bury what's left of you." Lena felt her lips curl into a humorless smile. "Come and try." Lena knew the message was a threat, but it was also a clue. Someone high up was getting nervous. Good. That meant she was close. She tracked the number to a secure server tied to a name she had seen once, a ghost in classified reports during her Marine days, Hassan Darzi, a major financier with roots in terrorism, politics, and the child slavery trade. Untouchable for years, protected by bought officials and his own private army. But Lena didn't care about untouchable. She cared about justice. Through an old contact in military intelligence, she pieced together Darzi's current location, a remote compound in the northern mountains, shielded by mercenaries' dogs and security cameras. It was a fortress, but every fortress has a weakness. Lena spent a week studying satellite photos, maps, weather patterns. She found a drainage tunnel running under a perimeter wall, likely overlooked because of rock slides. That would be her doorway. At night, she lay on her motel bed, rifle across her chest, running through scenarios. Her heartbeat was steady. No fear left. Only a patient surgical determination. Darcy had signed Emily's death warrant. There would be no mercy. The night before she left, Lena wrote a letter. It wasn't to the police or the government, but to Emily. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, but I will make sure no one ever forgets you. I will not let the world bury your name, I promise. She folded the paper and placed it inside a locket with a strand of Emily's hair, sealing it under her vest close to her heart. When dawn broke, she moved. Getting to the mountains meant hitching rides, paying bribes, slipping through checkpoint after checkpoint like a ghost. Her skills, long buried, were sharper than ever. Finally, she reached the compound, crouched among rocks while a winter wind howled through the pines. Through her scope, she counted patrols, tracked their patterns, watched Darcy's staff unload crates of fresh food, human smugglers pretending to be kings. The next night, she made her move. Crawling through icy mud, she squeezed herself into the drainage tunnel. It stank of rotting leaves and mold, but she barely noticed. Inch by inch, she advanced until her head cleared the far side. There, just meters away, was her target's mansion windows glowing with warm yellow light, a disgusting contrast to the death and darkness he'd created. She pulled herself fully out of the tunnel rifle, ready, breathing slow and even. This was it. The place where she would finish what they started. The compound was silent under a suffocating blanket of snow, muffling all sounds except Lena's own heartbeat. Every sense was awake, hyper-sharp, the way it had been back in the desert, only colder, meaner. She crept along the side of a maintenance shed, scanning sightlines, picking her moment. A guard stepped out, yawning, to light a cigarette. One clean shot to the head dropped him before the flame touched the tip. Lena dragged his body behind a generator, lifted his radio, listened to chatter, quiet. No alarms yet. She moved forward, boots crunching softly on the ice. A predator born of grief and rage. The mansion loomed ahead, its windows pulsing warm light that made Lena's teeth clench. Somewhere inside was the man who had ordered Emily's death. She approached a back stairwell and forced the lock with practiced hands, the smell of cheap cooking oil and fresh snow mixing in her nose. Up one flight, then another, until she reached a hallway lined with gaudy portraits of Darcy's ancestors, smug faces staring down as if they owned the world. Not anymore. Lena placed a suppressor on her pistol and advanced. Two guards outside a heavy oak door barely had time to turn before she dropped them with perfect quiet shots. She kicked the door open. Darcy sat behind an ornate desk, gold rings, flashing a glass of amber whiskey in hand. At first he looked annoyed, like she was interrupting his dinner. Then recognition bloomed in his eyes and a hint of fear followed. Ms. Carter, he sighed, swirling the glass. We could have done business. Lena's voice was ice. You killed my daughter. He lifted a shoulder, almost bored. Collateral damage. Regrettable. The word regrettable rang in Lena's skull like a bell. She raised her weapon. Any last words? Darcy smirked. I could buy you. I could buy 1,000 like you. Lena pulled the trigger. One round straight through the heart. He was dead before he spilled his drink. It should have felt good. It didn't. His computer still glowed behind him. Lena stepped over the body, tapping through files. She found documents, names, payment trails, government contracts, proof of everything. She set fire to the office with Darcy's own brandy, letting the flames lick up velvet curtains, swallowing centuries of corruption. As she stepped outside, an alarm finally blared. Armed men poured into the courtyard, but she was already gone, vanished into the swirling snow. In the mountains, she found a safe ridge to rest, clutching Emily's photo against her chest as tears finally came. Emily would never come back. Nothing would ever fix that. But at least in this frozen place, Lena had delivered her final bullet of justice. Lena made her way down from the mountains as the fires behind her consumed every piece of Darcy's empire. By the time the authorities arrived, all they would find were ashes, no one left to bribe, no secrets left to protect. The world would keep spinning, headlines would change, politicians would deny everything. But Lena had made sure there was proof in the ashes, hidden on a flash drive she'd mailed to the press before she left. Emily's name would never be buried under lies. She traveled for days, sleeping on buses, changing trains, always on the move. Part of her wanted to run forever, to disappear with the shadows. But another part of her, the mother part, needed to say goodbye. She returned to the city where Emily had lived, where she had laughed, where she had dreamed. A small military cemetery stood on a green hilltop. Lena carried a small urn of Emily's ashes, tracing each engraved letter of her daughter's name with trembling fingers. She knelt, pressing the urn to her heart. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, voice cracking like old glass. "I wasn't fast enough." The wind stirred through the trees. Somewhere inside, she almost thought she heard Emily's laugh, a sweet memory, trying to soothe her. "I love you," Lena choked out, "and I always will." She scattered the ashes gently into the breeze, letting them swirl free, carried toward the morning sun. When it was done, she stood alone, shoulders squared, eyes dry. A friend from her old unit waited by the gate, watching respectfully. "What will you do now?" he asked. Lena looked over the city, thinking of all the other Emilys out there, the other parents who might lose a child, who might never see justice. She slung her old rifle case over one shoulder. "There's more of them out there," she said quietly, "and I'm not finished." Her friend gave a small nod, understanding. Lena turned and walked away from the grave, disappearing into the early light, a shadow with a mother's heart and a sniper's aim, ready to become every nightmare evil men would ever fear.